Welcome to our first community call for the Lambda consensus client. I'll go search for the YouTube link so I can share it in a couple of places, and then we can start with our agenda. More members to the call. The idea is that for today we'll have just a couple join, but then for the next times probably everyone will be able to join the call directly. For now, we will be limiting participation to the YouTube comments, but that's more like an infrastructure issue. We'll be solving that for the next one, and everyone will just be able to jump in on the call. Right. YouTube link is shared in the Telegram group. Cool. I think that we can just start. Let me share our agenda for today. We'll be having our agenda in a Notion document that we'll be expanding. All right. Do you see this correctly, this Notion document? Maybe I'll just make the font a little bit bigger.
Yes, we can see it.
Nice. Thank you. I'll also be opening the chat so to see if to not miss any YouTube comments. Okay, we're ready to go. So this is the first of many community calls that we'll be holding. The idea is to have these once per month. One of the things that's usually discussed in community calls is how a project is going with a roadmap. As normally, we will have this once a month, and that will allow us to just give the updates for that month. But as this is the first one, we'll just give a general high-level view of the roadmap and how we're doing with it. So this was included in a Twitter post, I think a month ago. So there are some updates regarding to this. But this is the things that we did from the beginning until now. The first things that we did were the building blocks. We started with compression, serialization, working with SSZ, with snappy compression, and all of the cryptography primitives and networking primitives in order to be able to connect with libp2p, with the gossip protocol, with the request response protocol. And after that, we had a working node. Like, it wasn't a real node. It didn't do any consensus, but it was able to send and receive messages over the gossip network. After that, we focused on syncing, which is using that to get the blocks from the network and be able to send blocks or attestations to the outside world. Right now, we don't have any like the validator features are not part of the current MVP. That will be for the next steps. We currently focused on Sorry, I think I lost connection for a second. Well, let's continue. What I was saying is that the validator features will be for a version that's after the MVP. For now, we're focusing on getting information from the chain and being able to interact with it without proposing or attesting. Afterwards, we focused on the state transition. That's where many of the members in this call actually came in. We started with the bootcamp, with the consensus bootcamp, I think almost 4 months ago. And then most of what the bootcamp members worked on for the first couple of months was doing all of the heavy lifting, the state transition. So we have a lot to thank over to the three guys here, to Fernando, Godspower, and Mete. They will probably be sharing a little bit of what they did, state transition or not, in a couple of minutes. And after this, we were able to update our internal state using the blocks. Going to the next, let's call it slide. It's not exactly a slide, but let's call it that. We went on to implement the fork choice and finality algorithms, which is Casper and FFG. So we were able to not only get information and see what's the current network state, but also be able to choose which of the possible states is the correct one according to the proof of stake fork choice and finality algorithms. And then the next step, which is what we were working on maybe a month ago, was getting to a full node, which means integrating our consensus node with any execution node like geth or reth. And what we did, this is actually working now. We are able to have, if you have enough disk space, which is about 2 terabytes, you can run a full node in your computer using our consensus client, which is nice. Using that, you can send transactions to the network without needing something like MetaMask or using Infura or Alchemy. You can just do it, which is an RPC. Probably not the best UI, but you can do it as in any node, right? And we are already done with that. And now we're working on the next steps, which are, one of them is the Beacon API, which I will mention afterwards again, because it's a very good thing that anyone can work on if they want to start collaborating with the project, which allows querying the state of the node. And the next steps, the things that we will be doing after finishing with that, some of them we are already working on, are validator features that are for after the MVP. The idea is not only to sync with the state, but also be able to propose new state and attest to state that is being proposed, and also emit slashing proofs, which means reporting misbehavior and getting rewards for that, which is one of the key parts of the consensus protocol. Afterwards, working in Dencun, which is Deneb and Cancun, Deneb for consensus and Cancun for execution, where we will, of course, mainly be concerned with Deneb. And finally, I wouldn't say making this public because this is already a public project, but we will focus on robustness. Currently, we already have unit tests and spec tests implemented for most of the features. What we want to add for the future is also fast testing. We presented this project in Istanbul and at Prague, in DC Prague, and one of the things that some people mentioned to us was that there's an extremely good kind of fuzzing application to test this in, which is called kurtosis. So we'll be integrating with that and making sure that everything works even under very stressful conditions for the node, aside from the unit and spec tests. So that's our current progress. That's where we are at right now. So in participating, you'll probably be joining at this step, or maybe at some point on these steps, because that's what we're working on right now. Aside from that, we're also working on a couple of things that are not shown here in the roadmap. Mainly, we are building our own libraries for SSZ. So a couple of the bootcamp members are working both on encoding and decoding, which is already done, but we're testing it, and also on merkleization, which is building hashes of any arbitrary structure. So that's our current status. That's where we're at right now. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about, and I'll do it as quickly as possible, which is how to collaborate. So many of you may be interested in participating. So if you wanted to, where should you start? On the one hand, I will tell you that here's our repo. Here's our repo, right? The Lambda Ethereum consensus. There's a link on the Notion notes. And there's, in this README, which is on the main page, there's a collaborator package brought to us. All right, sorry about that, lost connection for a second. I will reshare the screen. All right, so what I was saying is we have a contributor package here in the README, which is here. And it is very, very detailed. There's plenty of resources for Elixir, for Ethereum, for every topic. Also a quick general guide on how to approach working with us. And what I will give today is just like a very quick summary of this. So basically, the idea is if you want to start collaborating with us, the first thing that you should do is probably study some Elixir. I know that if you already study Elixir, you can just, if you already know Elixir, you can just skip this. But most of the people that I know there, if most of them are not familiar with this language, which is a great one. If you do not know about it, it's the stuff where WhatsApp and Discord was built on top of. Even if it's not one of the most popular languages, it's one of the languages that are the most used, or in terms of bandwidth. Like if you measure the bandwidth of the internet, probably a significant proportion of the network is going through languages like Erlang and Elixir. Yeah, there's a lot of more information in the repo of why this is an interesting language for us. And we can, if we have some more time afterwards, we can discuss about it. Then study some Ethereum basics. There's a lot of resources in the repo for that. And finally, this is one of the most important parts, which is studying consensus layer. We cannot recommend enough the ETH2 book, or Upgrading Ethereum by Ben Edgington. Is one of our main sources of information, aside, of course, from the specs. And then reading our node documentation, and then afterwards, you're ready to go. You just set up your node, you fork the repo, you clone it to your PC, you can build a project, and you already have a working client. If afterwards you can, for instance, open Grafana, you can see the metrics. If you don't know Grafana, it's this kind of dashboards. I have a node that's been working on my computer for an hour, and this is the kind of metrics that I'm getting for it. We can see the amount of requests that I've been getting over the network, the amount of messages, the amount of peers that we are adding per second, the kind of errors that we're getting regarding to networking, which are pretty usual. These are not like security, they are not consistency errors. They are like networking errors, which is pretty common in a P2P environment. You can see these kind of things like duplicated messages, queue sizes, memory stuff. So there's a lot that you can see. The idea is to have these as big as possible to enhance observability, and eventually we'll have a node that can show you like everything you need to see that it's working correctly. So what else? Let me check if there's some comments in the chat. We don't have anything for now. And then the only thing that you need to do is collaborate. And if you want to collaborate, you can just comment on an issue. The idea to comment on the issue is to basically ask if you can take it, not because it's a permissions thing, but mostly because someone else might be working on it. Right now, Beacon API, as I said when talking about the roadmap, is probably the best thing to work around, because it's very good for first issues. It lets you explore everything to make sure where you get the info from, and you can explore the code base while working on that. Then you code in your local for clone. Then if you have any doubts, we have a Telegram channel for that. So make sure you join that one. You may not only join it for doubts but that's where we talk about technical issues generally. And that's where we give updates, where we share our daily notes. So make sure you join that. And then this is like common practices, like adding tests, making sure that they work, opening a PR, and then requesting a review. And we'll be sure to review it and help you merge it and help you solve your technical issues. So before jumping to comments by our collaborators, which are most of them are here, the first thing that I want to tell you about is like what's Lambda about, because this project was started by the Lambda company. Thomas Gruner, Martin Paolucci, and I are from Lambda, and we work on several topics. We work on advanced cryptography, like the Lambda Works open source library. We work in like core development for several blockchains. And we work on completely non-related stuff like video games, which is something that Lambda started working on this year. Starts working weirdly. So what I was telling about was mostly Lambda, and I was talking about, and our philosophy usually is to try to have everything production ready for the get-go, and trying to build fast and iterate into something that's already working. And we usually value like robust code that doesn't break or that recovers greatly from errors. We value people that work as a team and that that communicate clearly and build community. And lastly, but not least, we are open source maxis. That's something that we like to say. We like to make everything that we can open source. That's the whole reason. Well, I mean, these kind of projects, specifically consensus clients, are usually open source, but we also did like open source cryptography libraries and other work like that. And I want to send like a big shout out to the Ethereum Foundation on this point in particular, because they like heavily sponsored the first 4 months of this project. Both four of the members of this project, Tomas, Martin, Paul Henry, and I, the four of us started working on this as for the Ethereum Protocol Fellowship. So that was a great opportunity to support this project, because of course this is not like a typical project where you have a client that you sell this to or that sponsors you. So having the Ethereum Foundation actually support this was a great help. And I want to take the chance to also thank our collaborators. So this is like the collaboration graphs. I don't know if everyone has access to these, so I might be leaking information here, but that's okay. So here's Mega, here's Martin.
It's public.
Sorry?
It is public.
It is public. I'm glad to hear that. And if it wasn't, I just wouldn't care. But this is God's Power, which is who is also present here. This is Fernando, who's present here. Paul Henry, who's not in this call, but he was present during the first 4 months of the project and helped us start. This is me. This is Akash, who's not here, but he is one of the members of the bootcamp. He just finished his participation early because he actually got a job with it. So congratulations to him. I hope that everyone gets the same kind of opportunities. This is Mete, who's also in this call. And then, well, this is a bot. We wouldn't mention. We will not be mentioning him. And then we have a list of collaborators that sent sporadical PRs at the beginning of the project. We're very grateful for them as well. If you want to be like them or like the bootcamp members, like you can always see the issues, make a comment, take one, open a PR, and eventually, if you make a couple of PRs, you could be joining these calls as well if you want to. So yeah, we are open for that. We'd love to see a lot of collaboration here. And this leads me to the next point in the agenda, which is some comments by our bootcamp members. So the idea is for everyone. We have Fernando, God's Power, and Mete here, who has the three of them, plus Akash, who couldn't join today. They worked with us for the last almost 4 months on this project. So I would like to open a space for them to talk about what they worked on, what the experience was. So I was wondering if any of you would like to talk, if you would just like raise your hands or something so that I can assign so that I can assign space for you. Yeah, at least in my view of this blockchain, the first one to raise their hand was God's Power. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Yeah, good day, everyone. I'm Gospel is a part of the team. I started contributing as an Ethereum Protocol Fellow before I became a bootcamp member, and yeah, it's been about maybe 5 months, 4 months for like the bootcamp and probably 1 month. Yeah, and I just want to say a couple of things. Yeah, so one thing I've come to appreciate over the past months working on this project is you start to appreciate the hard work and the sheer intelligence that's gone into creating these protocols and coming up with the specifications and checking edge cases and trying to make the protocol as stable as possible, right? So it's something I've come to like appreciate, and also other implementations of the consensus client. You definitely, when you go into their code, you see that it has gone through a lot of iterations and really beautiful stuff happening inside of the code base. And secondly, something else that stands out for me is like Elixir. Um, it's a different one entirely, but it's really interesting, right? You would not, you can't assume what you would experience when you start in a user. You just have to use it, right? And something that stands out is okay. Two is the way they work with processes, and also the way they work with bits. You know, when I was like mainly a smart contract developer, when I go into code bases, I see this masking, this shifting, I'm like always scared. I'm like, okay, this thing is too complex. But when you work with Elixir, you literally have to work with binary and bits like every time. So you just kind of just get used to seeing it, and at some point you just have to make peace with the fact that this is another hand. You just have to learn it. And yeah, and also specific to this project, like a couple of things. As I started working on, like Thomas said at the beginning, we started working on mostly functions around state transition. And I think one that I worked on that was very interesting to me was shuffling, right? Just seeing how shuffling works and um, how validators are put in different committees and things like that was really interesting. And also one that also started up for me is process withdrawals, which is a function that is supposed to kind of calculate who is going to get withdrawal in the next block and those kind of things. And also I worked on networking, which is to me is like the hardest part of the the consensus client because many things are not you not necessarily say they're not spec'd out, but they are not very straightforward as other things in the spec, right? You have to think a little bit. And yeah, also another one that's interesting to me is I worked on um visualization, Prometheus and Grafana. I've been hearing about it for a long time, but just seeing like doing the whole hacks here and there and seeing the metrics pop up was really interesting. And last but not the least is methodization, SSC. I've been working on that for about I think since this year and late last year, and I'm mostly focused on methodization, and it's really really interesting. And also, I'm trying to adapt what has been done in other protocols, like in other clients, like maybe Rust, they use like um, list of list of um, bytes to represent 32 bits, 32 a byte. But in Elixir, you don't have to think about okay, how do I do that in a way that it fits, you know. And last but not the least, I would like to appreciate the team too because that's really been a good experience. And Thomas, two Thomases. That's wrong, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Uh, and also Martin, Fernando, Mete, Akash, and yeah, it's been a good experience so far. And I'm happy to
Thank you. It's been great having you. And yeah, Thomas is a very overloaded name in this team. We need at least a third Thomas so that we can have a super majority and take over the chain. Um, yeah, thank you for the comments. That's a great experience, and that's plenty of topics. Who else want to go next? I think Fernando is in the queue. Do you want to go next?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. For my part, also it has been a great experience. I am kind of new in several aspects of this. First, contributing to open source projects. I always wanted to do that, but I never had a chance or never had a see that there are other projects that are really extensive. So had the opportunity to start with project for the beginning. It was really great. At first, we started with some simple functions on the state transition that helped me to not only understand the project of Ethereum, but also Elixir. Even though I have kind of experience with functional programming, Elixir is gets you out of your comfort zone, have some special characteristics that make it very very interesting to learn. So I have with that not so increase my knowledge of software development, So it has been really great. I think mostly I have been working with the SSE library, encoding and decoding. That it has been really awesome to understand how all that process is done. Reading a lot of the spec documentation, not only the spec documentation, but other consensus clients, mostly Lighthouse, and trying to traduce that to Elixir in some kind of. But as I said, Elixir has some special characteristics that made it unique to do that. So yeah, I'm happy that doing that. For me, it has been a really good experience. As I said, I have learned a lot of things from open source, software development, Ethereum, all that part. That also is kind of new for me. That just I started to learn half year ago.
That's awesome. Great for the story. I'm getting that adapting stuff to Elixir has been part of the process for everyone. Elixir is a very interesting language, but it has its particularities, to say it in a way. But yeah, functional programming has its great things and also its difficulties. But at the same time, I think that once you step over those difficulties, then you have a very nice world of controlled errors and stuff like that. But that's you shouldn't get me started on that discussion because I can be speaking for 3 hours. So maybe I can just give the next talking space to Mete.
Hello, everyone. I would like to begin with talking about my journey in the Elixir Consensus client. I started with working on the state transition functions, and afterwards I've been building stuff in every part of the Consensus client, but some parts of those that made me like learn about the most of the parts of how Consensus client works and like how can I build it from zero to end. And like I got the idea right now, and currently I'm building another infrastructure project as well, which has a Consensus client on that. I'm using the knowledge that I earned from here. And
Amazing to hear that.
and like I think everything was really great for me. I learned a lot, especially from the workshops and for the Elixir as well. It was hard for me at the beginning because we are used to write for loops, while loops, and other stuff. And right now, I'm writing JavaScript sometimes, and I forget about the loops and I say, okay, there are loops, I can use those here. And the team is great. Like everyone is very friendly. And in Istanbul, I met with Thomas G. Couldn't find the others, but and yeah, that was challenging, but really great experience for me. And if anybody who listens to that needs to um, develop some infrastructure stuff, I think they should know about how these clients work, and like they need some experience on that. So like contributing on this kind of projects are very valuable, not for the project itself, for their self as well. I can say that.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. All right, I think that's that point of the agenda. We're very glad to have you all as collaborators, and at the same time, we want to open this. I mean, it's already open, but we would like to remind everyone that if anyone wants to learn about this stuff and start collaborating, every channel is open. You can come in the dailies on YouTube and comment and ask questions, especially on our Telegram channel. That's a very open channel. Even if you're not working on any of these issues and you're just reading the specs, you can you can go into the channel, ask your questions, and eventually, if you want to collaborate with any code, you're always welcome to. If you're willing to collaborate on stuff that's not code, like documentation and stuff like that, that's also welcome as well. So yeah, don't be shy. Feel free to participate. We don't judge you. We're here to help you. We love everyone that's interested in consensus in general. So if you ask any kind of question in Telegram regarding Elixir, regarding consensus, regarding hard forks like the NEB or whatever, feel free to just join and participate. And eventually, if you become a collaborator, we will be extremely thankful for that, but that's optional. All right, let me continue with the agenda. Let me continue where we left. So I think that we're almost finishing the call. We don't have much more topics in the agenda now. We already went to the collaborators and bootcamp members' comments. So the last part, the last 2 points, is basically getting some input. We can do it with the people that are on the call, but also if everyone can feel free to comment on YouTube if anyone has opinions on these topics. But the main point now would be what would you like to see in the client? One of the things that we get asked a lot about when we presented this in Prague or in Istanbul, for instance, was, okay, what's your selling point? What's something that would differentiate this client from other ones? And one of the basic things that comes to our minds is that this is a very robust client. Elixir is a great language helping with that. It's very fault tolerant, and the way that supervision trees are built are they have built-in failover. So the idea is that this client, especially when we finish it, will be extremely resilient to networking issues or if you, for instance, have a problem with a single validator, the client should continue working, etc. Those are all important selling points for our client. But we were also wondering, what kind of features do you want to see here? What's something that anyone would like to see in the client that maybe other clients don't have, or that other clients have as a special thing that would want to see as well here. So I want to open up that to everyone here in the call and also everyone in YouTube. If anyone has opinion, you can just start talking or writing.
I think something I would like to say is having our own implementation of the P2P. That's probably it's I don't know if it's too much overkill, but I just feel like having a native implementation of the P2P is would be really, really interesting and a fun project to work on. And
Definitely. If at some point, that's probably something that we will do after lunch, but that would be awesome because we would have concurrency built in, not only in the node part, but also in the networking part. And it's also a very, very interesting thing to work on. If you like networking, building your own P2P stack, it's probably one of the most interesting things you can do, aside from implementing a torrent client or something like that. But yeah, definitely. We're also looking for comments on stuff like, I don't know, for instance, me as myself, one of the things that I would love to see when this project is finished is to have a very robust observability. For now, we have a very good Grafana dashboard. But the idea is to take that to a level where you can just watch the dashboard and you know if everything's going fine, if you have any kind of memory problems, if something is going fine for now, but you may have problems in maybe a couple of epochs. For instance, your validator is getting behind on attestations and stuff like that. So, or if you're getting memory issues, having alerts, that kind of stuff. Because I think that there are many different users and many different types of users for this. You may have your average user that just wants to send transactions over the network, like without using a wallet or without using a gateway like Infura or Alchemy. But you also have like infrastructure providers, right? Like for instance, you have a staker and you have an operator, and the operator needs to run a client. And what would an operator be interested in? Probably different stuff than your usual like JSON RPC interactor. The operators usually are interested in robust infra, in getting metrics, in getting stuff like that. So that's like personally one of the things that I would love to prioritize after we finish with the validator features.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
go ahead.
Do you want to go, God's
Yeah. So what I wanted to say is I don't know if this is already existing in other clients, but something I find really interesting is like having like a client that ships with like a really useful GUI that you don't have to be, because most of the times when I see like demos of clients, it's always like on the terminal, you're trying to get this, you're trying to get something, like maybe you're trying to find out how to get your URL to connect to MetaMask and stuff like that. But like having a very helpful GUI that ships with the client, which like helps you just, you're running a client, but you also have a really useful interface that interact with your clients, right? So something that to me is interesting. Yeah.
That sounds very cool. I would say that maybe UX, UI stuff, like having your own built-in wallet, so to say. So instead of needing to open a browser or anything like that, you can have like a desktop app that you can just connect to the, like have it connected to your client by default, and then you can just interact with it without needing to use JSON RPC. That's a very interesting point. I will actually take some notes on this, because one of the points of having a Notion thing is that we can take notes. So we talked about observability, only P2P stack, UX UI, and especially having wallets, like built-in wallets to interact with JSON RPC locally without needing a browser. Oh, this is not in questions. This should be in the previous point here. Oops. Okay, that's it. This is also one of the key things of a community goal. We can't just build up this kind of stuff interactively. So if anyone wants to participate, they always feel free to do so. Eventually, your stuff could get included here. I think that Thomas was also going to say something.
Yeah, it's just working on this node, I found that there aren't that many Ethereum modules, I think, or crypto in general, on the Elixir ecosystem. So I think it would be good to see in this client the start of of an Elixir crypto community that is like a really lively crypto community.
Yeah, that would make sense to me. I mean, Elixir is one of the most, I would say, like concurrency focused languages out there. So having something that's natively a distributed computer like Ethereum, it just makes sense to have both of those things connected in a way or another. So it's more of a vision thing, but I definitely agree with that. But all right, I think that we're running out of time, so I will just like add as a last point if we have any kind of questions aside from these kind of comments. Questions can come from collaborators or from whoever is watching the stream. All right. I'll take that as a no for today. I think that we can just finish the community call on time. But yeah, thank you all for participating. The idea is to have one of these every month, probably at the beginning of the month. So we are in 8th of February right now. Probably we'll have some one the first Thursday of March. We don't have a date yet, but that's the go-to date, unless we have anything else. So I will just make a comment on that. So schedule for these calls. First Thursday every month, maybe. To be defined, but this is probably the golden schedule. All right, I think that we can just finish this. But thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Thank you especially to the bootcamp members for sharing their experiences. I think that's very valuable for us, and I hope that will that will make other people want to collaborate as well. And yeah, thank you everyone for participating in this call. See you all in the next one next month.